So, finally been a while since I've done a bit of a vlog type video, doing a bit of an update, or a bit more of a in-depth update, I guess. But anyway, we are on, it's the 24th of November, which puts me at 40 weeks out and some change from the first show of the year, or at least the first show where we know the date of. So there are some rough, Andy and I put some rough show plans together for next year. So prep will start roughly around the end of April. I think the date that came up was 26th. But ideally 20 weeks out from the PCA Manchester, which I think is the 3rd or the 4th of September. It's the first Saturday or Sunday in September. And then we're going to do the Manchester after that, and hopefully go on to the British, where the whole aim is to get the British title for my class. I came 3rd last year, but I was the youngest in the class by a fair bit, and I feel like I've made painfully drastic improvements in my physique. I'll post an example here. Mainly in my back. My back has been lagging for a long time, and I was very stubborn in wanted to change how I trained to thus make said improvements, but I've adjusted how I'm training. There's a bit greater focus on being able to feel what is working, and I actually feel my back contract and everything and all that jazz. Basically, I do all the nerdy movements. All the optical crap is getting done now, but it's changing my physique. So, hey ho. But yeah, so 40 weeks out, so I'm still pretty deep into the off-season. I think this marks week 9 of this current off-season push, which will be the second one. I'm very unaware if there's going to be another one before we start prep, because this one will likely bring us into next January, and then it may just be a matter of just coasting from then to April, and slowly tidying things up and trying to hold this weight, which is the absolute heaviest I've been. So today I was 104.8, so 230. But my heaviest was last week, where I managed to hit 105 kilo.1, so that's around about 232 pounds, which I'm over the moon at. The heaviest off-season it was in my past off-season ever was about 98 kilo, so I'm a good 7 kilo over that now, so I'm more than happy. Obviously this isn't the tidiest I've been at this weight, but every time you get to a new weight, it's the same with strength. Every time you go to a new weight, the first time you move that weight, the first time you get to a new body weight, it's never going to feel fantastic. It's never going to look your best, but every time we diet down and then we come back to this weight, come back to 105 kilo, it's going to look better and better and better, which is kind of the aim. I'm very aware that the people I look up to in the pro league that are similar heights with me are in the 212 class, so they're competing under 212 pounds, which I think is about 90 kilo. But their heaviest, they're only getting up, they're maybe going to be getting to 240, 250. So sitting at 230 now, I think this is the first off season I've been like, okay, I can get big enough for the pro league, and it'll just be a matter of when, in my opinion. But yeah, that's probably the confidence within myself when it comes to standing on stage and competing is probably the thing I will always struggle with the most, is speaking that type of stuff into existence, because I'll think it and I'll say it to the missus, I'll say it to Andy, I'll say it to my mum and the few people I trust that compete, that are my friends, but outside of that I'm very aware that the people that chat shit and say I'm going to turn pro, and they'll do like the road to pro and then don't turn pro for another 4 years, you just look like you've got egg in your face. And in a sport which is very selfish, to be that almost arrogant, I find is very, very, very narcissistic, and it's not a nice trait. It's often what puts me off of some people I've met and some guys that are in the pro league. So I try to not be that. But yeah, I think last year and this year I've finally proven to myself that I can achieve what I set out to when I was 16, and it's just a matter of once I've done that, moving on to the next. So yeah, I'm very, very, very excited, very hopeful for next year's prep. I'm very, very far ahead in terms of what the progress we've made and what I thought I would be able to make this year, which is good, especially from about January to, I want to say, March, April. My mental health was absolutely in the shitter. The anxiety I get, and from that, the depression I get from staying so anxious and not talking and not discussing what's bothering me and what's upsetting me, just it compounds and compounds and snowballs until it's like this massive, huge elephant in the room that I don't want to even admit is there. And it's something I want to use these vlogs and videos to talk a bit more of, because I'm very aware that it's not just something I struggle with, it's what a lot of other people struggle with. I have clients that struggle with this. So the more I can talk about my own struggles, the better. But the biggest thing that clicked for me is just kind of getting on with everything and staying busy and not giving myself time to wallow, because when I'm not busy with work, when I'm sitting around the house having food, watching TV and training, and that's all I'm doing, I've got so much time on my hands to just sit and spin up in here, that my head becomes a very, very uncomfortable place to be in. But then I've got no escape out of that. So staying busy and being busy is probably been the biggest benefit for myself, and putting all this energy I have into my business is the most positive way I know how to help myself. But yeah, everything's going well. Training's going very, very well at the moment. I've got no major injuries, knock on wood. I'm not the strongest I've been, but because I've adjusted some sessions and adjusted how I train with some stuff, as much as it's still a priority within my training, I still want to get stronger. It's not the biggest priority. Like, for so long I was so just like stubborn on pulling 300 kilo, squatting 260, benching as much as I could, pressing as much as I could, whereas now it's more of like, okay, let's do movements that don't shatter my joints after 8 weeks of doing them. Let's do movements where I don't feel after one session I need to sit in a bath or sit in a dark room for 2 hours to get back to normal. So as much of my sessions are tough, they're intense, they're not to the extent that I feel like I feel battered after 6 weeks, and then I'm having to like push through that from avoiding deloads and stuff like that. So everything's going well. Food is probably it's the highest it's ever been. I want to take a guess and say it's around about 5,000 to 6,000 calories, between 5,000 to 6,000 calories. I don't actually know, because I just go off of amounts. But I'm growing, I'm getting heavier, and that's all that really matters. The biggest thing for myself was getting my food high enough that it gives us a lot of wiggle room to diet down from. Because what has happened in numerous preps is my food's not been overly high. So as we went into a diet phase and continued to come down, my food has had to get unbearably low, which obviously has an impact on everything. It has an impact on your energy, your moods, your sex drive, everything like that. So the last 2 preps I've done, calories have went under 1,500 on training days, plus at least 90 minutes of cardio a day. So it's not an ideal place to be. But I'm hoping that this coming prep that doesn't happen, and if it does, it is what it is. It's prep. I'll do what I need to do to get into shape. But yeah, I'm excited. Obviously I'm going to be doing a 2 Bros show, and I can't remember what they changed the Arnold UK name to, but whatever that becomes replaced, I'll do the replacement show. I'd like to see where I stand in the light heavies, because I'll likely still be a light heavy, if not on the bottom end of the heavies. I'd like to see where I stand in an international lineup in a really, really big show, and see where I stand competitively. I feel like I could fare pretty well. I feel like I could be in that like top 6 mix, and if I am, I'll be fair chuffed. As much as I wouldn't be going into those shows thinking I'm going to win. I'd be going into that type of show planning to place in the top 6, place in the top 3, and come away from it with an idea of where I'm at, and then to push past that the next off season. And I think this is, as much as it's great to go into shows with the pursuit of winning, I think you should do that every time you're competing. Is training to win. Because I think when I say this, I've said this to other people before, they think I don't train to win. Every time I've prepped and I went into shows thinking, okay, I want to place in the top 3 at every show I do. I think they hear that and think I'm not applying myself, which I am. I give everything to preps because I enjoy the actual prep. So for me, that's not tough. But I'm very aware that there are levels to bodybuilding, and genetics is a massive part. And there's the whole, if the moons light up, if the stars line up and the moon, everything just lines up for you on the day. Like, you could be the best bodybuilder, you could be the biggest, you could be the most in conditioned, but if the judges don't if the judges don't like what you're looking like that particular day, you may not win. If your peak doesn't go well, you may not win. There's so many things that can go on those last like 24 hours on the day in bodybuilding that you can't control. That it's one of those things that I tend to, I've tried to force myself to get less and less emotionally attached to it. Again, this is where it's been a benefit that I competed at such a young age, because I've allowed myself to kind of take away those emotions from it. Obviously I want to win, and obviously I get upset if I don't win, but I don't linger in it. I don't let that shape how I view my own bodybuilding, which I do think is very invaluable in my opinion. But everything's going well. I can't complain. I will say gear use is probably at its highest, and it's something, again, like talk about my mental health, I want to talk about on these. I'm just very aware of the time because now it's 12 minutes in. So if you made it this far, congrats. But yeah, gear use is definitely at its highest this off season. And when I say that, I don't just mean Anabox, I mean everything. I'm using Lantus in the morning, I'm using growth hormone, I'm using fast acting insulin around my post workout window, or around my training window. And then of course Anabox they're not on the low end. And I say this because there's so many big name coaches I know of in the industry that preach health, that preach this, that preach this. And I know people that have worked with said coaches, and that coach has had them cruising on 600 milligrams a year. So that is not being health, approaching bodybuilding in a healthy way, in my opinion. Because as much as when I'm on cycle, I'm kicking the arse out of it, when I go down to a cruise, I'm down on a cruise. Like my last cruise cycle, I was running 125 milligrams of test a week, which is fuck all. Literally fuck all. I think it's like just under a tenth of what I'm doing now. That's bad math. That is bad math. But anyway, you get the point. It's taking steroids is still very much like somewhat like taboo, and talking about it is still a bit somewhat controversial. I think it mainly comes to the dosages. People will admit they take steroids, but they won't talk about the dosages, and it's up to their own person's prerogative. And I am going to have disclaimers on these videos because of that. But that's what fucks me off, because you'll have these coaches, these big name coaches that are promising people pro cars, that are promising people you can do this, you can do that, it's just hard work. Approach your bodybuilding with a moderate approach to taking steroids, and I think that is how you can approach it once you've built the muscle tissue. Once you are the size of James Hollinshed, once you are the size of Nick Walker, once you're the size of Hunter Labrada, until you've gotten to your peak size, until you're at your absolute stacked out and you just have to refine your physique, I think that is only then is when you can really pull back on the drug dosages. Because when you're building the muscle tissue, what you need, the input into your body of what you need to do to grow is vastly different compared to what you need to do to maintain. I don't think enough people truly realise that. So if you're like me, and you're wanting to really push your bodybuilding and get the most out of it, and be as big and as best as possible, you're going to have to admit that you're going to have to take a fair whack of steroids. Unless you're the genetic, like that one in a gajillion million, and you're the genetic elite, and then fucking fuck you.